Yeah, without much ado, let us begin. I'll just start sharing my screen. Do tell me if it's visible. Kshitij or Rituraj, either of you give me a confirmation if my screen is visible.
Bhaiya, now it's coming.
Right? Great. So today we have gathered over here so that I'll be sharing my experiences and I'll be sharing like what has been the entire placement procedure for me for the 2021 batch. And then later on, we'll be moving over to your questions. Let's see at what's the agenda for today. So I could actually roughly play, sketch around certain things that is a major concern for most of you people, and also your organizers helped me to what are your expectations. So we'll be, discussing around these certain critical points, that what is expected out of freshers by the industry, and what is the entire buzz around internships and projects. This thing about competitive programmings, how is the entire technical interview, what are your do's and don'ts, how is the HR round, and what is the overall placement procedure, right? And I'll try to keep it very brief, within like 20-25 minutes. I'll try to wrap up the presentation. After that, if you have any questions, just feel free to unmute or request your organizers. I don't know how this procedure goes. Rituraj or Kshitij, like either of you intimate me if there's any question in the middle as well.
Yes, sure,
Most,
Bhaiya.
yeah, right. So just save your questions for the end. Like it is most probable that I will answer your questions in the presentation. Still, if you feel that your question is not answered, save it for the end. We'll deal with all your questions towards the end, right? Also, do we have any faculties joining here today for the session, or it's just students?
It's just a student, Bhaiya.
Okay, so can I know like what, like which year do they majorly belong to? Like what is the,
We are
thing?
basically from, I guess, our batch that is from the third year and the second year.
Okay, so majorly students are from third and second year. Great. Cool, then let's begin. So what I was speaking of as what does the industry expect out of you when you're going like directly out of college as freshers? What does the industry expect you? So there's like, the entire thing can be summed up in 3 points. You have to be smart, you have to be efficient, and you have to be a quick learner. Now, what do I mean when I say smart? Smart means you know your way around. That means you know your skills, you know your technical, the things that you've been taught in college. You are quite efficient in that. That means smart. When I go for efficient, that means you can get things done easily. That means you have the skills and you also have the ability to do work. And thirdly, you may or may not know everything, but then you're eager to learn the things that you do not know. So you are a quick learner. So these three are the key, like you can call key uh, personality traits, or however you put it. These three are very essential when recruiters come to college to hire students or freshers for the industry. You have to be smart, you have to be you have to know what you're working upon, what the requirement of the industry is. You're efficient, that you can actually implement those skills, and then you're a quick learner. That means you can pick up easily. Like if we just go down on a much finer level, these 3 points can be further subdivided into 5 subpoints. One is you have a strong grasp of a programming language. Now over here, I'm not focusing upon any one particular programming language, but any programming language. That is what is expected out of you, that if you know a programming language, you know that to its depth. Next, looking forward to problem solving abilities. Now, since most of you are here from the second or third year, I guess you must be having uh, your way around with data structures and algorithms. So to know how to implement those data structures and algorithm skills that you have gained in college is your problem solving abilities. And as I said, the learning attitude. Are you a consistent learner? How good, like how eager learner you are, how fast you can learn and grab things. Next, what projects or contests you have participated in. And finally, good communication skills. So this projects or contest things will be dealing with, a bit in detail, like further in these slides, but just be around these things. Like you need to have a strong grasp on a programming language. That is, how to implement your skills. A programming language is first only thing how to implement the things, right? You know your data structures, you know your algorithms, but you should know how to implement them. So you should have a good grab of any of the programming language. Then the problem solving abilities, like I said, data structures and algorithms, you should have a learning attitude and good communication skills. So it happens often that, people know, answers to most of the questions in an interview, but they do not know how to present it. So it is very essential that you also know how to present your answer, right? So moving ahead, okay, so we have a video over here. Just look into the video and we'll discuss.
Employers love experience. But data also shows that post-secondary education is essential for higher lifetime earnings. So how can you get both? Education and experience? Internships. According to a 2012 study by the National Association of Colleges and Employers, 59% of businesses hired their paid interns as new full-time employees. This may be why 65% of 25 to 32-year-olds in the labor force said more work experience while in school would have helped them get the job they wanted. By cultivating the professional networks and skills you'll need to succeed, internships can really improve your employability regardless of what you're majoring in. In fact, a recent Auburn University study showed that interning in a career field could be even more important than majoring in that field when it comes to getting a job interview.
Great. So our next concern is around internships and projects. There is usually many people have asked me this question, and this question is very persistent, that are internships at all necessary, and how, if necessary, how many internships or projects do we have, are we supposed to have? So see, first, a very basic question is that why at all do you need internships? It boils down to two very basic answers. You need to have hands-on experience to know how it is actually done in the industry, how work gets done in the industry. And next, to have a pre-placement offer. Majorly, these two are the only reasons why people look for internships. So a question is there, like, are internships very necessary? I would say no, not very necessary. But yes, if you have an internship, it is always an add-on benefit. So it is never so that if you do not have an internship, you will not be allowed to sit for an interview, or you won't be able to clear your interview, or would be rejected just on the ground that you don't have an internship. But if you have an internship, that is always an add-on benefit. Now, why? You see, when you go for internships, you get to learn and work upon a lot many new technologies, which might have happened that you have not learned in college. So, like, if you get an opportunity to grab an internship, get the internship. Like, always keep on trying that. If you get an internship, very good. Keep on trying on, looking for opportunities where you can work with people. Doesn't matter if that's a paid internship or if that's not not a paid internship. Just see, if you get an opportunity to learn, if you get an opportunity to work upon any new technologies, or just work upon like any old technologies which you've worked on, just if you can get an experience to work on some projects, and to get a hold of how the actual thing is done in the industry, I suggest you should go for internships. Now, there is one also, one very important point to this, that what after, if you've got an internship? If you've got an internship, do that real honestly. Why? Because now what happens if you put an internship on your resume? The interviewers actually know that you have worked on so-and-so technologies, or with so-and-so organizations and so-and-so projects. So they know that you have good knowledge about that. So they will test you. So if you go for an internship, it is my suggestion that you do that very honestly. Get like in-depth knowledge about the technologies that they're working upon, and prepare a project really like very nicely, so that and like if you know it very properly, then you'll be able to answer the questions which the interview asks. So just, it is never so that the battle is only half won if you get an internship, but it is not fully won until unless you complete that internship with full honesty and dedication. So when you get an internship, like if you get an internship, do that very honestly and with full dedication. Now often there are certain questions that like when should you go for internships, or like where should you look for internships. So I suggest the first semester or the second semester is a time when you actually prepare and invest in yourselves, like work upon your skills, your data structures, algorithms. Since the placements in our college begin roughly towards the second half of the third year, I suggest you go for internships during the summer vacations of first year and second year. That is right before your second year begins and right before your third year begins. Because it is not wrong that if you get an internship in third year and go for that. But I just want to say that like when your placements begin, you should be free by then, released of anything else, and you should be totally focused upon your placements. No divided concentration on that. So try to wrap up with your internships before that. Do it in the the summers of second year or the summers after first year. Best and ideal time is to go after the second year. Why? Because you have had 2 years of theoretical knowledge. You have learned everything in college. Now it's your time that you can actually get a good internship and implement them, the ones the skills that you have learned. The best time is to go after second year, but getting an internship in the market today is quite a tough task. So begin after first year. Like start applying, start preparing your resumes and start applying for organizations. If you grab an internship in after first year, very good. If you do not get it, keep working on yourself and keep applying for internships, and then at least try that by the end of second year you should have an internship. See, but there's also a thing that what if you do not have, so you shouldn't get panicked that you haven't got an internship. Keep trying. If you grab a good internship, or if you grab any internship around the technical skills and you see that it's not paying you well, don't worry. If you see that there's a scope of learning, just go ahead with it. Go ahead and make good projects, learn something, and that is actually going to benefit you. So now moving ahead with this thing of internships and going to projects. So also there are many people who ask currently who are in third year who are appearing for their placements. They ask that how many projects should be there and what kind of projects should be there on the resume. So I suggest a very good number and a very decent number should be 2 to 3 projects. 2 to 3 good projects, more than enough. 2 is very good. Like if you have 2 very good projects, you needn't worry. But if it can just go up to 2 to 3, that's it. Not more, not less. 1 becomes 2 less, and after 4 it becomes too many, right? It actually questions your abilities, that actually have you worked well on the internship, have you on the projects, have you learned actually anything or not. So 2 to 3 is a decent number. Work on good projects. So I'll share one experience of mine during the interviews at Microsoft. So they asked that, tell me, how does your project help the people? I mean, what problem does it solve? So just try to weave your problem statement for your projects around solving some issue. Like if you find some problem around, that's actually an easy way to pick up the problem statements for your project. If you see that something there's a problem around or something is not working well, how do you model that problem into a programming project and then work on that? So at the end, you actually have something to say that, yeah, this was the issue that I faced, or this was the issue that people were facing, and I could come up with a solution. This works like so and so. So try to work up around projects that solve some problems or help in a general sense, help someone or help a group of people. Another great suggestion would be try to work collaboratively in teams. You might be wondering that why working in teams or working with a group of people is important. But have you ever noticed that the projects that are offered, the term and projects that are offered in college, they always suggest or insist that you do it in groups. groups are divided and then project statements are allotted. At least that was the case during our time. I really don't know what is it now, but we were always offered projects to be done in groups. So you see, like, even if you have one project that you have done collaboratively with a number of your friends or people in a group, that is a very big benefit for you. Now, why? The question is why? Because the recruiters, they have a major concern that where are you a team player, or are you a person who does very well alone, but you cannot get along with people in a group, right? So the moment you showcase in your resume that you have done a project with a couple of people, a couple of your friends, it showcases that you are a team player. You could actually get your thing done when you're with a couple of people. You can take opinions, suggestions very positively, and you can work upon that. I'm not saying that working alone is wrong, but if you can work in a team, and of course, like when you're working in a team, if there are 5 brains working on one problem statement, you're going to have a better solution at the end, right? So working in a team is always going to lead you to better outputs and outcomes rather than working alone. But see, if you're actually comfortable in working alone, try working with a number of people once in a while. See how how does that go. If you feel that certain things are not working for you, try working around those things. Because when you get into the industry, you will never be given an opportunity to work on one project all and alone. You will always be working in teams. You'll brainstorm in teams. You'll develop, if it's for a development kind of a task or any kind of thing, you will always be there as a team and you will not be alone. So better, if you think that you're not able to work in teams right now, better build upon that. Work upon yourself, invest in yourself so that you actually gain those skills and you can work in teams. And yeah, of course, like good kind of projects. So there are many people who have asked that, okay, so bhaiya, I like web development, I know HTML, I know CSS, and is that a good project for final year? I say, see, HTML, CSS is just the front end part, or something which doesn't actually is kind of proper development. I suggest don't go for those kind of projects. You like web development, go for full stack web development, like completely with the front end and the back end. Just the front end becomes too very naive, very simple, and it actually doesn't showcase your skills, the technical skills. So go for front end and back end development, like totally go for full stack projects, go for Android projects, go for any ML projects. But again, see, nowadays there is a buzz around ML and AI, and there are a lot many projects available online. So you can actually put up any project on the resume. The problem is, or which many people face, is that they do have projects, but they actually don't know what they have worked in the project. So better, it's okay to have a simple project and know everything about it, rather than writing too much in the resume that you have done so and so, and you actually have no knowledge about the project. So actually choose and decide that, is your project worth it, worth your time? Does it need any refinements? Go and approach your faculties, like how you can refine your idea, and take suggestions from your seniors or from the internet. Your faculties are the best resources, I'd suggest. Take help from that, refine your ideas, that rather than just randomly getting an idea and working on that and putting that up in your resume. Refine your idea and actually gain decent knowledge about the technology that you'll be working in the project. If you have written ML and AI, so if not everything of ML and AI, you should have some very baseline knowledge about what is ML, what algorithms you have used in your project, how internally the algorithm is working. And on a very in a very nutshell, you should know what a fresher from college should know about ML. At least you should know that. See, more than that, that's always a benefit. But there's something, a very least, very bare minimum should be known to you if you're working on any technology. If you say that you have used some computer vision or some random technologies in your project, but you just know a very little about that, no issues. But as much as you've used, you should know totally about that. Like if you say you've used XYZ technology in your project, you should know the technology very well, right? Rather than just randomly putting up projects in your resume. So I guess we are done around internships and projects. If you have any questions, just save it or we'll discuss towards the end of the presentation today. Now, this is one big concern of people in college, that competitive programming. Should you be doing competitive programming? How should you start with competitive programming? And there are a lot many questions around that. So this thing I'll be dealing today in 3 questions: that why at all do you need competitive programming, how to deal with competitive programming, and there's certain myths around competitive programming which are not letting people to come into this arena, right? So the point is, why at all do you need competitive programming? It is because you know a certain skill and you want to judge that where do you stand with people or with humans around the world who know the same skill as you do. So if you want to judge yourself from that point of view, then competitive programming is the best way for you. Also, if you feel that you want to improve on your skills, then also you can go for competitive programming. If you say that, okay, you don't know algorithms, you just have a very baseline knowledge of that and you want to improve on that, you can go for competitive programmings. But just don't go for competitive programmings because of peer pressure. Because I've seen a lot many people around you, they say that I am doing competitive programming, so and so is my score on the leaderboard on so and so online platform, and that just intimidates you so much that you also go into competitive programming, and that just becomes a cycle that you don't get the outcomes and you get so frustrated that it becomes a cycle and you just don't come out of the cycle. So the ultimate learning out of your entire efforts is zero. So always turn towards competitive programming only if you have a perspective of learning. And next, let us proceed further as to how to deal with competitive programming. So first thing first, I mean, say my personal experience has been, I have not done too much of competitive programming, but I have done a decent number of questions on a number of platforms to just have a sense about what kind of questions people are preparing for and what kind of questions usually come for computer placement interviews. So my suggestion would be, begin with easy questions. Now, at all, if you've turned towards competitive programming, first of all, have an open mind that you are here to learn. Now, when you have started with competitive programming, if you're very, if you're on a very beginner level, just judge yourself. If you think you have just learned something and you want to implement it, then just go with easy questions. Like first 1 week, 2 weeks, go with easy questions. Just know the platform, how is it, and how the ranking is working. Just go with basic questions like input output based questions, just to know how well are you able to understand the question. Because usually for competitive programming, the questions are about like 1 page to 1.5 page long. So to easily figure out the requirements and the constraints from the questions is a task. So just try with easy questions. And when you have just crossed this phase that you have begun with competitive programming, you have spent some little time on that, start doing a mixed bag of questions. Like if you fit a daily quota of questions, such as I'll be doing 5 questions, after which 2 easy questions, 2 medium level questions, and 1 a good tough level question. Because why I suggest, there are many people who haven't begun with competitive programming. So for them, if you begin with easy level questions, you'll be having 2 benefits. First, you'll be able to know that where do you actually stand, what is your current status in terms of your learning. Secondly, it will be a source of motivation for you. Like if you begin with easy questions and if you see that you're getting answers to that, then you'll be motivated to solve more. So that's the benefit of starting with easy questions. But when you've spent decent amount of time with easy level questions, go ahead with some medium level of questions and try 1 or 2 tough level questions, just to know that actually what kind of questions people are working on and how much have you learned. If you directly begin with medium or hard level questions, I am very sure that most of you are going to suffer with this frustration thing, that you're not going to get the outcomes, you're not going to learn out of it, and finally you're going to just stop working on the platform. So just to keep the process continuous, you should begin with easy questions and then proceed with medium level questions and then go on with tough level questions. Also, you should also monitor that how much are you learning, because the moment when you see that there is a learning associated with what you're doing, you will start enjoying it and you'll just keep on doing it more and more. So also keep on monitoring that if you're actually learning some new things every day, the questions that you're doing, it should not be, my suggestion would be, if you're doing 5 questions, try to do 5 questions from 5 different backgrounds. One could be from strings, one from arrays, one from linked list, trees, hash. Don't just do one topic. It is because what would happen when you start enjoying something, it is you are more prone to enter into that arena only. Like if you are able to solve questions for arrays, you are more likely to only solve questions for arrays and try other questions as well. So it is always suggested that you try different level of difficulty questions with different levels of difficulties and different types of questions rather than just going with one type of question. Next, very wise suggestion would be participating in contests and hackathons. Now I'll tell you how this is going to help you from the how competitive programming and this hackathons and contests is going to help you from the placement perspective. So there are many rankings which are offered on platforms like competitive programming platforms, HackerRank rankings and LeetCode rankings and leaderboard scores. You can actually put that up in your resume, right? It might happen that your interviewer might not know that what is a LeetCode score, because there are people who are working in the industry since very long and who might not be acquainted with what is LeetCode and what is actually like how this competitive programming thing works. Because once you enter into the industry, you actually get very much less indulged with competitive programming. So people in the industry might not actually know, but if you put that you have so and so good ranking in so and so platform and you have participated in these contests and this is the result and you have some score, they would be keen to know that, yeah, what is this thing? Please explain it to us. If you have a 5-star ranking on HackerRank, so they might be interested to know, okay, like what did you do? What all different types of questions you have done? How did you get this 5-star ranking? What has been? So they would be interested to know. And since you have done this, you would be in a better position to explain it to them and work your efforts in your benefits. As in, if you have done competitive programming, then let that work in your benefit. Let that work in your favor during an interview. Intimidate the interviewer by, if you can say that, yeah, I participated in an online hackathon and there were so and so people from these many colleges and I won the first position and this was my idea, this was the project we developed. You may or may not win. You can always say that, okay, I went on with this idea, we implemented this project and we didn't win, but we have learned a lot many things. Also keep a note about what you have learned. It will not just only help you in your overall growth, but when actually it comes down to the interviews, it will help you down to point that, yeah, if you have done this thing, how that has helped you. If an interview asks that, okay, you have a very good history in competitive programming, how do you think that has helped you? And how do you think that is going to help us if we hire you? You can actually keep, point and say that I have learned these many technologies. I've learned with these many people over an online platform. And I know like how to deal with critical situations. Like when we were in a hackathon, I know how to deal with a project failure and I know how to deal with time constraints. If we were provided with, if you can say, just 24 hours to develop one big idea and one working program. So these things will help me and these are my learnings. So to keep it is a suggestion that you keep a note of what you learn continuously. If there are some, if you go by my way, I'm a person who just notes down. in pen and paper. So if that works for you, keep a note of what you've learned, keep a note of what you have gained from each and every project, from each and every experience. If you feel that you have developed one certain project, keep a note of that, that yeah, these are things that I've learned, these are things that I need to improve upon, and don't repeat on that. This also showcases your learning attitude. This also, and this will actually, in the longer run, it will help you, and you can actually have a monitoring of yourself, that yeah, I was so and so on day one, and now I am so and so, I've improved on these things after keeping a note of what I've done. So this is the way how to go around competitive programming. Also, there are certain very very, like, kind of say, like, very things that are very popular around competitive programming, and these are absolute myths. That you are right now in third year and placements are actually around, so you might feel that it's very late to begin with competitive programming. I say it is not at all late. Even if you're in third year, or if you are probably in fourth year, or if you're just a fresher in college or in second year, it is never late to begin with competitive programming. If you feel that you have an urge to learn and try, that is the day to begin with competitive programming. You might be in a perception that I am here only for learning and not for competition. Very good on that. you know Try to solve questions provided on their platforms. You might not be focused upon improving your rankings or compete with people around, but just for the purpose of learning, and that is absolutely fine. Competitive programming serves two purposes. That is, one, you can compete with people around, participate in hackathons and contests, or just focus on your overall development and overall learning. Both of them is fine. Next thing is what language to use. I mean, see, there are a lot many people who will say you that go with Python, go with C++, go with Java. I would say that's my personal experience, and I guess that would be suggested by you, by your professors, even in your college, that there is no such preferred language for competitive programming or in the longer run programming for your interviews, right? They are here only to look for like how you the skills. They don't want the industry people or the interviewers don't want you to be very well acquainted with a lot many programming languages, but just one or two. Two is a very good number. I suggest go with two deep knowledge of programming language, and that's it. So usually for competitive programming, people use Java, C++, or even Python. So just go with what you're comfortable with. The same thing also works for interviews and during placements. Go with any programming language that you're comfortable with. Nobody is, until unless some company has a very specific requirement that we want people to be trained and fully trained with so and so XYZ programming language, then the scenario is very different. Or else nobody actually looks for people with one particular programming language. You have you have a good knowledge about Java, that's it. That much is enough. See how you can implement your skills of Java and your skills of data structures and algorithms, your skills of object-oriented programming. That is important. That is what the people are looking for, not how many programming languages do you know. Having a decent knowledge and in-depth knowledge of 1 to 2 programming language is more than enough. So in my what I usually suggest people to be good in 2 programming languages. One, any procedural language, and one, an object oriented language. Why? So that you can have taste of both. When you can actually differentiate between, when you know one procedural language, you can actually appreciate the beauty of object oriented language, that yeah, so and so things aren't available like let's say in C, but yeah, I can do these problems in Java. And when like 2 programming languages, one procedural and one object oriented, then you can actually decide basing upon the scenario that which one to use. Because some programming languages have runtime associated things, that some programming languages are faster in terms of runtime, some are slower. So basing upon the requirement of the question, at that point you can decide that whether to go ahead with C, whether to go ahead with Java or something. But you should be acquainted with one procedural and one Java. So for that instance, C and Java was my go-to language. I also had a decent amount of knowledge on Python, but C and Java was the baseline. Next thing is like how to approach a problem. So it happens that you deal with a problem, you face a problem in a competitive programming platform, or usually you'll see that the questions that are asked during your placements are either directly picked up from any competitive programming platform or are somewhere around that. The length, if you judge the length or if you see the overall essence, they're somewhat near and around your competitive programming questions. So trying competitive programming questions will actually help you gain an essence of what it is going to be during the real placement scenario. So you will be able to know that, I mean, how to actually solve a problem, how to read through a problem, how to skim through the information that has been provided, and how to actually model a wordy problem into a programming statement. So yeah, the more you practice the questions, the more you will be efficient in doing this, because this is one major task to actually identify what to be done after you have been provided with a question. Once you know what is to be done, we all are very good programmers, we can implement that. But until and unless we understand that what the question is trying to ask, what is the required solution, what are the required constraints, it becomes really a big task to solve it. So try competitive programming, practice through the questions so that you can know how to navigate yourself when you face such questions, right? So with this, we have come towards the end of the competitive programming slide. I'll just move towards the technical interview do's and don'ts. So I have jotted down a couple of points for do's and don'ts. If you have any specific questions around technical interviews, just do ask during the question segment. I'll, one very important thing is drafting a proper resume. I guess before your placements, you'll be having sessions which will be arranged from the college, and they'll be telling you how to draft your resume. Drafting a proper resume is very, very important. So be it so that you're going for internships or sitting for placements on or off campus, your resume is your identity. What is there in the resume is what you know. So prepare a resume, and when you go for like an interview, you prepare your resume. Read through what you have written. So my seniors used to tell me that you may know a lot many things, but only put those things in your resume which you are confident upon. If you are 200% confident that yeah, if someone asks me a question around this particular skill and I am very sure that I'll be able to answer it, only then you go ahead and put your skills in the resume. Because if it happens that you've put up something and the interviewer asks a very silly question or be it anything around that particular skill and you're not able to answer, it really portrays you're trying to bluff the interviewer. You're trying to show what you're not. You're trying to present yourself as something else and which you're not. So better be safe. List little things, fine. It might not be so that you have a lot many skills, you have a lot many things that you have done, but whatever you put in your resume, make sure that you know about that particular skill throughout its kith and kin. Everything you should be aware of that. If you have put one particular project in your resume, you should be very well aware about what you have done in the project, what has been your contribution in the project, and what were the necessary skills. Everything you should be knowing about that. So I would suggest refrain preparing very lengthy resumes. Since you're freshers just out of college, one-page resume is more than enough, and 5 to 6 skills is pretty easy. Like like data structures, algorithms, these are very handy. You have learned these things, you can put them up. But if you feel that you're not very confident with data structures and algorithms, do not put that up in your resume. Now, next, what when you have been provided with a question during interview. So this is particularly during 1:1 interview, right? When you're there before the interview, not during your written rounds. The second point is towards when there's an interviewer before you and he or she is asking you a question that Mr. So and so, Miss So and so, please tell me how do I solve this problem. This is a problem statement and how do I solve it. So your first idea should be to approach the problem from multiple angles. Think around the problem. Yeah, what could be a probable solution? Specifically saying from the perspective of product-based companies, they don't actually look for, if you are able to find a solution to the problem or not, or if you're actually answering the question or not. But if you're actually, if you are, trying to discovering the different sides of the problem, if you're trying to find different solutions to the problem, then they would be more interested in you rather than if they just provide you a problem and you just find a solution. That's it. So my suggestion would be, if a problem is provided to you, try to think differently, try to kind of, see what all things have been provided to you and what probable options are there. So you can actually say that, yeah, sir or ma'am, so and so is the question and so I feel could be an answer. I feel that this roughly the time complexity for this answer is probably n square time complexity. But if we can refine these constraints, we can actually have a better time complexity for the solution. Then they would be interested in you rather than just saying that, yeah, okay, this is the problem and this is the solution and this is the way we will code it. They would be like, okay, you go by formula based approach. You are less of a thinker and more of a just like, you put the formula and you get the answer. You're less of a thinker. So they would be more interested if you think around the problem and try to suggest. You may or may not be true. Your assumptions, your suggestions, your answers may or may not be right. But the point is, if you have approached a question with, from multiple perspectives, it actually gives a sense that you think and you kind of try to solve. That's the most important thing, rather than just saying that, yeah, this is the solution, you will try to solve. Next, listen to the interviewer very carefully. Now, it often happens that you are, during an interview, you're actually very tense that, yeah, what is going to be the outcome of the interview and everything. In that moment, you often skip what the interview has said. Do not do that. Try to carefully listen to what the interviewer is saying. What is the requirement of the interviewer? What is the requirement of the question? And often it happens, see, if you're actually doing well, if you're trying to think, and if the interviewer feels that, okay, you are trying hard, then the interview actually provides certain hints that, yeah, what maybe like if you think if you can use this particular data structure, I feel this thing would be easy. So listening to what the interviewer is saying is very important, because you might be stuck at a point, and at that point the interviewer might try to help you by dropping you hints. So just focus upon, like, be in the moment. Like, even if you see in the don'ts, be in the moment. Like what the interviewer is saying, the third point in do's and the first point in don'ts is quite very related. So be in the moment, think about the problem, listen to the interview, rather than just thinking about the outcome, that what if I'm not able to solve the question, and what if I'm able to solve the question, will the interviewer ask more questions, or is this the end? Just don't go upon that. If you have been provided with a question, be very careful, be very understanding. If you feel that there are certain things which are unclear to you, very humbly ask that, okay, I have understood this problem, but there are certain points which need a bit more of clarification. So would you be kind enough to explain them to me? The interview, these are certain positive traits. The interview would be, interested in you, that because you are a person who is trying to listen to what the interviewer is saying, listen to the requirements of the interviewer. So these are certain very important traits which will help you actually ace your interview rounds. Not an right answer, like these are certain features which will help you more than a right answer would help. Then being to the point. It may be so that you have found out the answer, and if you just start on explaining your answer and just go on and beat around the bush, the interviewer would be least interested. Why? Because the time the interviewer is investing for the interview is very precious. If the interviewer said 1 hour for set 1 hour for you, then that 1 hour and 1 minute beyond that is very precious. 1 minute beyond that interview, 1 hour, is actually a waste of time for the interview. So just be to the point. If you think that, okay, so you have come down to this particular solution, your brainstorming has boiled down to this solution, just be to the point and say, yeah, sir or ma'am, so and so, I have figured out the solution. I guess this way we can solve this problem. Rather than just beating around the bush, say very, be very specific about what you're answering. And also communicate well. I mean, and that is the point which I covered in the first slide as well. You may know what you're doing. You may be knowing the answer, or you may know how to go about with that, but you may not know uh, like uh, how to go around, or presenting your answer to that. So communication skills is very, very important. It is because also a point that later on in the industry you'll be working in teams, in a number of people who will be working along with you. So if you cannot communicate well, if you cannot actually transpire your thoughts into the people around you, so your task is not done then. So even if you know your skills, even if you have found the answer, you should be well competent to tell that to the interviewer. Make the interviewer understand that what you're thinking. And finally, be yourself. If you know certain things, be very confident. If you do not know, just don't try to bluff. That is also the second don't, that do not bluff. Be yourself. If you have knowledge about some particular skill, and if the interviewer asks, just say that, yeah, this is my um, kind of experience in this particular technology or this particular project. I know around this. Just don't try to showcase yourself to be something which you're not, because these people are dealing with freshers and new joinees each and every day. So just with just at one moment they'll catch that if you're telling the truth or if you're lying. So better to speak less, and better to speak the truth about yourself rather than just showcasing and portraying something that you're not. That also covers up the third point for don'ts, that do not provide any false information, which comes down to do not provide any false information in the resume as well as during the interview. Don't write anything which in the resume which you're not confident upon or you don't know. That will just work, backfire for you in such a negative way that you will not understand. Like the interview would go with a very happy mood, and then would be like, yeah, okay, good, your interview was very nice, but finally you would see your name has not been shortlisted. These are very small points, but these are the points which these interviewers pick up very fast. So do not lie, do not provide any false information. And finally, do not be very overconfident. Be confident about what you know, but just don't be very overconfident. Don't just keep on boasting what I know so and so, I have so much of expertise in this. Don't be overconfident, don't be boastful. Be very humble, be very be confident. That's the baseline. If then that gets reflected the way how you look at the interview, your body gestures, how you sit, and how you speak. Finally, be confident, sound confident. That's it. Do not be boastful and do not be overconfident. So with this, we have come down to the end of this technical interview slide. I'll move. Yeah. So now, actually, now we'll start with the HR on questions. How much time do we have? Let me see. It's already 6, so I'll just keep this very brief. These are some very common HR questions that are provided, right? And you will be getting proper training for third year students. I guess they are receiving training around the HR round, so I won't go on elaborating on that. But just be very optimistic when you answer HR questions. Sound very optimistic. I will not speak too much upon this, but the baseline thing is that sound very optimistic and be very positive. If the interviewer asks, the HR interview asks that, tell me something about yourself, or even it happens that during technical interview, especially during product-based companies, the technical interview often asks that, tell me something about yourself. So this could be often a repetition of what you've written in the resume, because what you've written in the resume is actually you. The resume is there with the interview. So why does the interview ask, tell me something about yourself? It is because, firstly, to set the tone. It is kind of a very common icebreaker question that, yeah, Mr. or Miss so and so, please tell me something about yourself. Secondly, the interviewer is keen to know that what apart you have done which is not there in the resume. So this usually includes your extracurricular skills, your likes, but be very precise and be very optimistic when you say. Like you can say that I'm so and so, if I come from so and so place, and I'm currently in so and so year. I have done projects on these and these things, and in my free time, I like doing these and these things. That's it. Your hobbies and certain things might not be there in your resume, but that is the point when the interviewer is keen to know that what extra skills you possess, what is your understanding of yourself. So this question is targeted for that. So the next question is, what are your strengths and weaknesses? And this is a very critical question. People often uh, get very wrong answers for this question, that what are your strengths and weaknesses. So just don't go for like we were always say that don't go for national strengths and national weaknesses. Go for strengths which are actually which you possess. So think about that. A very decent suggestion would be, before you go for an HR round, you would be get handy of some couple of questions, most probable questions which are asked for HR round. Write down your answers, frame them, and actually, if it's possible, learn them. This will showcase that how much prepared you are. That will give you the confidence to answer unknown questions. And thirdly, you will not be confused that if someone asks that, yeah, tell me your strengths, and you just start thinking that, yeah, okay, what are my strengths and what are my weaknesses, you won't be confused at the moment. It is because you have brainstormed earlier. So go with what are your actual strengths. Go with something that you have actually showcased. That if you say that, okay, I'm a team player, and if someone asks that, how do you think you're a team player, you can suggest that, yeah, I have done these projects with a couple of members. I've participated in these contests with no, with some in a team. So I know how to deal with team conflicts. I know how to go around with difference in opinions. I'm a team player. I can, and that's my strength. So just brainstorm, think about yourself, that what are your strengths and weaknesses. And often when it comes to weaknesses, there is a thing that people say that, they take up a strength and they just say that, and that is my weakness. For example, you would say that I am so hardworking and I'm so much, devoted when I'm assigned with a task, that I often forget about any other thing. And that becomes usually very stressful for me, because when I'm assigned with a task, I just get fully devoted towards that, and that is my weakness. That can work fine if the interviewer is not interested in digging deeper into that. But if the interviewer kind of digs deep into something which is actually not your weakness, then that, and if they find that you are kind of saying the false thing, then there are three possibilities to this. I mean, either first thing is that you are lying. That is one big thing which will put you on a very negative note. Secondly, the interview will get to know that you don't know about yourself. You don't know about yourself. You don't know about what are your skills, what are your weaknesses. And thirdly, you actually follow a formula based approach. That is that these things are kind of established. The interviewers go to various colleges, go to interview so many people every day. They know what these people are saying. A set of answers are available on the internet. People go there, mug those answers up, and they speak. So that is a very formula based approach. That means you're not just thinking, you're not applying your brains in these situations. So my suggestion is that brainstorm, think about yourself. When it comes down to weakness, I suggest you figure out one weakness of yourself, that, yeah, this is my weakness. I cannot keep up to deadlines. That is actually a weakness. I mean, when you're working in the industry, deadlines are a very big thing. So you need to work within deadlines. So you can just say that, yeah, this is my weakness. I really feel it very frustrating to work within deadlines. But then what are you actually doing to improve? A weakness is always followed by what are you working? Like what are you working and what are you doing to improve on that? Keep these things in mind. And then like, how do you deal with team conflicts? So just frame your answers optimistically around these things. Just don't say that I don't feel like working in a team, or I am better off when I work alone. I'm more efficient when I work alone. Just don't say these things, because these are very negative points. If you actually feel that, like I said earlier, if you actually feel that you are like very good when you work alone, try working in a couple, like with a couple of members in a team. See where you are lagging behind and try to improve on that. And that could actually work upon as a weakness as well. And then how do you deal with a stressful situation, and why do you want to join us? How do you deal with a stressful situation? That is a very basic question. Like, just brainstorm and try to understand, like how do you actually react, and just prepare your answers around these questions. But the overall essence of your answer should be very optimistic. Another very important question is, why do you want to join us? This is a very famous question, very important question for HR interviewers. Why do you want to join us? There are abundance of companies that are visiting your college, and if you just go about, you might be able to fetch a placement in many other companies. So why at all do you want to join us? That is my first priority. If your company is providing me placement, I am there for you. That could be your thought, but just don't portray it before the HR interviewers, because that is going to put a very negative impression of you, that you are just a person who is outcome oriented, who wants only the outcome, who wants to be placed. That's it. There is no other learning associated with you. But how you can answer to this question is that that yeah, I have gone through your mission and vision of your company, and I feel that your ideals perfectly align with my principles, and I feel that if I join your company, I would be able to contribute better to the the greater motive that you people are working for. Like this, I mean, you just frame your answers on a very optimistic note, on a very positive note. Just don't say that you have a very high package that you're offering, or you're offering a very good job role, and that is why I want to join in. No, always associate the aspect of learning, that yeah, I'm eager to learn, your company provides a lot many learning opportunities, and then frame your answers. One very a wise suggestion, a very good suggestion, is that study of the company before your interview. Study about the company that you're interviewing, like read about their mission, their vision, everything. Because often this is a very tricky thing, that the interview asks that, do you know about us? What do you know about us? What do you think we work in? And why do you think that your skills perfectly fit with those that we are looking for? So in those situations, your preparation about the company comes very handy. So my suggestion is that go about, like who have been like, what is the mission and vision of the company? What are their ideals? What have been their achievements? And what services are they offering? What are their products? Who are their customers? These are certain bullet points around which you can research about the company. So study properly about the company before you appear for the interview. And this question may be a part of the HR round, or maybe a part of the technical round. So this question is oftenly asked for the HR round, but some technical interviews might as well ask this question. And also prepare situation response questions. This is very specific to product-based questions, product-based companies, because they want to know that if you're being put in this particular situation, how do you handle that? If you're put in a critical situation on a very important mission, how will you be responding to that? Will you be able to kind of provide your uh, provide help in solving the situation, or would you be just a hindrance in going towards the solution? So prepare around situation response questions. There are a lot many abundant of situation response questions available on the internet. Prepare around that, because often HR interviews ask that, okay, so what if you've been made the team manager or project manager for one particular team, and you see this one particular problem going on with the team? So how will you deal with that? How will you deal with one problematic candidate in your team? So these are some situation response questions. Prepare around them, and I guess you'll be good to go. So with this, we finished with the HR round slide, and the placement experience. Yeah. So this is the last slide. I'll tell you the overall placement experience. So people in third year right now must be knowing that what is the placement scenario in a college. I mean, what is the actual thing, not just in our college, rather in for placements in general, that how the companies who come, how do they hire, and what all particular skills that you're looking for. So you'd be providing with a mail forwarded by the placement cell of the college, which would be highlighting the job description or the requirement. So my suggestion would be that, draft a resume which tailors to the specific requirements of the company. I mean, if a company is expecting that so and so person should be good in communication, and okay, the person may or not be very good in Java and C++, then just tailor your resume according to their requirements. Showcase what all communication skills you have. I mean, if you have participated in some competitions before, and if you have won some achievements, showcase that. Because if their criteria is, or if their major requirement is a person who is good in communication, so they would be focused more towards this aspect than the technical or any other aspect. So read the job description provided in the mail very carefully, and prepare your resume accordingly. Next comes usually the placement in uh, our college or any other colleges also happens in 3 phases. So the first phase is the written round, second phase is the technical interview, and third phase is the HR interview. So often it happens that the second and third phase get mixed up, and there is tech plus HR rounds or managerial rounds. But so it actually varies. It can be 2 rounds or 3 very distinctive rounds. But this is the basic structure. You'll be having a written round where you would be asked questions upon, uh, your aptitude and reasoning skills and vocabulary skills, and also programming skills. Then comes the technical interview, and finally is the HR round. So a good suggestion would be, to start practicing for aptitude right when you are. If you're in third year, what I felt, it was very late for me to prepare for aptitude, and I literally had to struggle a lot with aptitude because I started preparing towards the end of my third year. So if you're currently in first year or second year, I mean, you shouldn't be too much stressed about it, but just kind of keep on solving some aptitude level questions. Go to some online platforms. You can devote about 1 hour to 1.5 hours per week towards this, and I guess that's fine. But if you're actually in the third year and you have started facing companies, the written rounds of the companies, then I suggest you take this up. And if you feel that you're not good in aptitude, you take this up very seriously. But if you're in the first or second year, you can begin with aptitude and reasoning. Just 1 to 1.5 hours per week is more than enough. Also, there are some companies who go for email writing or essay writing. So I mean, when you're in your third year, I guess that would help. But you can just keep on working on all these things when in the second year or in the first year as well. There are some companies who also go for one extra round, which is a GD round, or a group discussion round, or what you say, probably they might say that, okay, I will host a GD before we go on for the technical interview, or we'll host a just a minute for all the candidates before we go for the technical interview. So GDs or jams, this is very common with many service-based companies. So you can prepare around that. Go for, a lot many videos are available on the internet. Just go through that, see how GDs are hosted. And also you'll be provided a particular trainings on that. People in third year might be knowing it, but people in second and first year might not. So you'll be provided training, but you should always be prepared beforehand rather than preparing in the 12th hour, right? So you can prepare for GDs in just a minute. And then comes the technical interview, for which I've specified. So for usually product based companies, there are no distinctive rounds. Like this is a technical, or rather saying specifically for Microsoft, there wasn't any specific round as this is a technical round, this is an HR round. There were 3 rounds, which were tech plus HR rounds or leadership rounds. And if you go for companies like Amazon, they do have very distinctive rounds devoted to 3 rounds or 2 rounds for technical interviews, and 1 or 2 rounds for HR interviews. So it just depends. It could be mentioned beforehand. If not, just keep on preparing around that. So with this, I guess I am done. And yeah, I guess I'm done. And I would open the room for like any questions you have. You can post it in the chat section or come off mute and ask. And I know we are running slightly a bit over time, but it's Sunday. I guess it's not much of a deal. So yeah, any questions? I suggest you guys better come off mute and ask, because it usually it is actually feeling like a one-way communication. If you guys are comfortable, you can come like on video and ask the question, or just on mute and like just ask.
Guys, now all of you can unmute and ask questions.
Better, what would happen, you just raise your hands, and I guess the moderator, you unmute, and or else it would be too chaotic. And I already see there are a couple of questions in the chat box. I'll begin answering them. Meanwhile, if you have any questions, you can post in the chat or just raise your hand, and I guess the moderators will unmute you.
Prerna and Sanjana, please pick the questions from chat box.
Okay. Here is the first question is that, do you have SD role in Microsoft or something else?
Yeah, first things first, know that my role is not an SD role in Microsoft. My role is the role of an associate consultant. If you're eager to know what is the role of an associate consultant, I'll tell you, but no, my role is not an SD role, because Microsoft doesn't visit our college for SD profiles. It goes to other colleges, but for our colleges, it comes for for consultant, associate consultant roles. Okay, so the next question I can see is how many companies are visiting ITER? See, the scenario for our batch was a bit pretty different. That totally depends upon, Satyajit, which year you are right now in, because if you're in the second year, then the scenario is likely to improve by the time you reach third year and placement begins in your in the college. But since we were the batch when the COVID struck, so even the companies were not prepared well. They were laying off employees, so the things were a bit skeptical. But near about, roughly I can say, I mean, I don't have the exact numbers right now. Roughly I can say about 100 companies visited our college that year for our batch. But the numbers have surely increased for this year, as I see, and they're likely to increase in your batch as well if you're in the second year.
Yeah, so there is this next question from Abhishek. How to make resume for the first internship when we don't have any experience?
Great. This is a very important question. So see, when you're going for internships, first target your companies, that which companies do you want to go for, right? So be it any startup or any company, see what technology are they working upon, or what technology or what roles are they opening for the internships. So if you have usually these these things come, the openings for the internships come 2 to 3 months prior to the actual internship that begins. So you actually have 2 to 3 months time in hand before you can apply, before you can actually sit for the interview for internships. So I would suggest go for the technologies that the startups or the companies are working on, or what projects are they offering, and prepare around that. Like, just have a basic knowledge that you have hands-on little experience upon, probably if they are if the requirement is for Java or C++, then you can just know the language if you have no prior experience in that. And then just prepare around what technologies they are working on. That would be a bit. And if you feel it's very late and there's no time to prepare upon the question, prepare upon the requirements, and then prepare your resume, then just go with what skills you have or what skills you have worked upon. Just put that up in the resume.
So the next question is from Rajesh. Bhaiya, which companies are coming for SD role in our college?
Great. So I guess, there are a couple of companies who come for SD roles, but I'll tell you about the dream companies. The dream companies are Amazon, Microsoft, PayPal, Reputa Robotics, Adobe. So I'm not very much sure about Adobe and Reputa Robotics, but Amazon offers an SD role, and I guess PayPal offers an SD role. Also, there are some day one companies which offer SD roles, such as Informatica, and I mean, there are a couple of companies. I mean, I'm not getting them now, but there are a good handful, 7, 8 companies which come for SD roles. Yeah.
And the next question is that how many companies you can sit for?
Okay, so this is a very critical question because it is totally subject to the college's policies, because the college's policy says that if you get through any dream company, then you won't be allowed for any other company, first thing. If you make it through any day one company, then you won't be able to appear for any other day one company until and unless, I mean, if you get placed in a day one company, the scope of appearing for any day two company or is actually eliminated. If you get to any day zero company, then the scope of appearing for any day one company gets automatically eliminated. But if you are there in one day zero company and any other day zero company comes, so until and unless the offering in terms of CTC that the day zero company, second day zero company offering is double that what you have got, as in, like, if you have got an offer from company A which offers 5 LPA CTC, let us say, so you would only be allowed to appear for any company B for day zero unless and until the CTC they are offering is double that of which A is offering, that is greater than equal to 10 LPA. So this is the college's policy, but you're always open to apply for off-campus like placements as well. So nothing to worry about, but yeah, off-campus placements is a big task. It becomes a bit tricky and tough, but yeah, it is what it is then.
So there is this question, how much effort should we put in theory part?
Theory as in, like, what I mean, I'm unable to understand this question. I mean, whose question is this? If he or she can come off mute and clearly ask that, what theory are they asking, as in, like, I mean, because see,
The question is for Sohan Sahu, if anybody can unmute him.
Suman, please check.
Yes. Hello, am I audible?
yeah, you're clearly audible.
So yeah, I want to ask that how much effort should I put in OS and DBMS and OOPS and that type of?
Okay, now this is now a very specific question. See, you should be familiar with what are your core subjects that are being taught in the branch. So I suppose all of you are from CSE branch. If you're not, then I am very sorry, I don't know about the core topics of your branch, but I'll tell you about the core subjects of of CSE. So it is computer architecture, it is operating systems, it is networking, it is data structures, it is algorithms, and it is DBMS, databases. So these are 6. I mean, I can I guess these are the 6 core subjects that are offered in the college. So if you see operating systems and so these there are questions that the interviewers ask around the core subjects. The interviewer may ask, okay, so tell me how good are you in operating systems, or tell me how good are you in networking. So these things might not have a practical application in your project or in your internship, but these are questions that you are likely to be asked by the interviewer, since these are the core subjects, and any fresher or any graduate is most expected to know these things. So my suggestion is that go very well prepared with any 2 or 3 core topics. Computer architecture might be very easy, like you might feel it's quite easy, but nowadays as the trend says, the interviewers usually don't ask too many questions around architecture, right? So, but I mean, it totally depends upon the interview as well. If the interviewer feels, they may ask questions on architecture, but usually on a general note, people do not. Yeah, interviewers usually ask questions on operating systems, on OOPS. Yeah, I also missed. OOPS is also a core subject, which are pretty theory based, but since these are core topics, you are most likely to be asked questions on these, like databases. See, the practical application is in SQL, but theoretical aspects are in databases, operating systems, so you're very much likely to be asked questions around them. So my suggestion is just prepare these at least 2 to 3 core topics, prepare very well. Easier ones are databases, DBMS, OS, and networking. These are easy. So if you say that, and oops, these are very easy topics to go with because not very tough questions come from them. But don't, and another, I just got another core subject is software engineering. So it is a suggestion that don't choose software engineering or computer architecture, or for that instance, networking, because networking, I found that pretty tough for me. Operating systems and databases were easy for me. So I suggest you can go with these topics, prepare very well around these topics, and you can fetch good marks in the interview. But humble suggestion is that don't go with software engineering. If anyone says that, what is your favorite subject, or tell me list of the 2 favorite subjects that you've been taught in college, say the subjects which you are very comfortable in. But just a suggestion, don't go for software engineering or don't go for networking, because networking and software engineering, these things that they are working on every day, so they have a very, very good understanding of that. So they can actually ask you very tricky questions and trap you in that. So better go with easier ones, which is databases and OS. Yeah.
Next question is that do we need to apply for internships for year 2022 from 2021?
For your 2022, you need to see in their portals. Basically, go very targeted about the companies. Keep on checking their career portals. I mean, they highlight it in their career portals that they open for internships or not. See that. I mean, I'm not pretty much aware that you need to apply for that like 1 year before. But I mean, there are companies who actually open their portals quite very early, so you can just check around, or you can go for there are a number of internship uh, online platforms which offer internship, or you can see like which companies are offering internships right now online, so you can just go around that. Yeah.
So this is the next question. It's from Aman Agarwal. I am currently in the 3rd semester and I want to ask, is projects required for internships? And what is the time to apply for internship and what are the prerequisites for?
So yeah, your question is 3 parts. First is, I'll answer it in 3 parts. First is, are projects necessary for internships? Yes, projects are necessary, but I mean, not necessary. I mean, if you have projects for applying for an internship, well and good. I mean, then you are very easy. Like if you just say that, okay, I'll put a situation. Like if you write in your resume that, yeah, I know Java, but you don't have any projects around that, then the interviewer will have a very large domain to ask and interrogate you on Java to know that what are your skills in Java. But if you say you know Java and you have a couple of projects done in Java which you've stated there, then the interviewer understands that, okay, these are the skills that you know in Java and you've implemented them in the project, so these are certain skills that you know. So if the interviewer's requirement is met in those skills, it's fine. And if it's not, then they will go on for asking. But if you don't put up projects for for interviews in for resumes in during internships, then it leaves a very wide space for the interview to ask a lot many questions. And the questions can be from anywhere, could range from easy, tough, mid, anything could be asked. And in that case, you are more likely to be in a state of not answering, right? So better present questions projects in your resume when you're applying for internships. Now, secondly, when should you start for internships? Now, you said you're in 3rd semester. I suggest you can start looking for internships right now. You can go for some very simple, small 1 week, 2 week, or 3 week internships during the winters. But when you reach these summers after your 2nd year completes, try to get a good internship which lasts for two to 3 months, a decent internship. You can go for some small internships and projects right now during the winters, fine. But when you finish second year, try to have an internship then. It is because like after you finish third year, if at that point you go for internships, I'm telling you, it's gonna be a very big task for you, because at that point companies will be visiting the college for placements. So you can't be devoted towards two things equally. So better have an internship beforehand. After your completion of second year, that is the ideal time I would suggest to go for the internship. Were there any questions in this thing? I just don't see. Prerna, were there any other questions apart of
Yes,
which?
there is this question.
No,
I
apart of this
received-
question, were there any other
Yeah,
part?
yeah.
Yeah,
No,
please.
there is this two parts only. Yeah.
Okay.
So there is this question: is there any process that students can direct attend the interview without any written test based on their CGPA?
Based on the CGPA, no. But usually it happens, I had a friend of mine, I'll tell you the example, who had been to a hackathon which was organized by, I guess, IIT Kharagpur and Amazon, I guess, right? So the hackathon was organized by them, Amazon and IIT Kharagpur. So he took part in the hackathon, and he made the project there, and from there he directly got an internship in Amazon. So just basing upon CGPA, no internships like that. I mean, not to my knowledge. I mean, there might be some companies which might be offering basing upon CGPA. I am not at all sure, but majorly no companies offer internships basing upon CGPA. Directly, if you don't want to go to the screening process, there are some like these hackathons or contests from which, judging upon the basis of your skills and your projects, some good companies directly hire you for internships. But if not that, then there is no other way, I believe. I mean, you need to go through the traditional way of applying, going with the resume shortlisting, then the interview, and then internship. Yeah.
So there is this another question. What level of coding questions in written test of our college? What's the level of coding question in the written test of our college, and how we can prepare for it?
Yeah, so the level of coding questions is majorly from easy to medium level. Sometimes for where some specific companies, some very project based companies who have very specific requirements or very high requirements, then they have medium to tough ranged questions. But majorly it is easy to medium, mostly towards the medium type of questions during the written round for coding questions. But it is mostly towards medium or for most companies. How to prepare? I mean, see, if you are a competitive programming kind of person, then you will be knowing that what kind of questions are provided in the platforms. You can go there and practice. If you think that no, competitive programming is not for you, there are a lot many other platforms where you can practice, such as HackerRank, HackerEarth. You can go there and practice questions just for the sake of learning. Yeah. Can we have the next question, Prerna?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, okay, go ahead, Sanjana.
Next question is that on which semester and in which company do you have completed your first internships?
I couldn't get you, Sanjana. Can you please repeat again?
On which semester and in which company you have completed your first internship?
Okay, so I did my internship, I guess, after the fourth semester. It was after the second year. I had one internship in Tata Steel and one internship that was an online internship, which was a winter internship. I guess it was of 3 weeks, I guess 3 to 4 weeks. It was some very medium level startup. I can't get the name right now. I'm not remembering the name. So I had two internships there. One was in Tata Steel after second year, the summers during second. It was, I guess, a 2 months long internship, and one in a startup, very medium level startup. I guess that was the winter before that. I mean, after my third semester, I guess.
So So yeah, there is this question. What's the criteria for getting an interview shortlist for Microsoft?
Okay, so I'll be answering this question very specific to what you have asked. I'll be sticking to Microsoft only. So Microsoft has, I guess, 5 phases of the written round. So written round has 5 phases. First is the no 6 phases, I guess. Yeah. So first is your aptitude round. Second is your reasoning round. Third is your vocabulary round. So these three make the part of the written round. Then there is a behavioral round where they judge, I mean, what is how like what is your general behavior around working in industry and working in teams around. Then there's an essay writing round where you're supposed to write an essay around a word limit is provided, I guess, some 200 or 300 words, and and a topic is provided, and within a time frame you're supposed to write the essay. And then there's the coding round where I guess we were provided 2 questions. Questions were not easy. Question was medium level to tough level ranged. One was medium and one was tough. So see, what is the criteria? Even I am not pretty sure about the criteria, but I can say that these are the rounds. And what you can do is try to make sure that you are able to clear the aptitude rounds, the reasoning rounds, because as much as I remember, there are sectional cutoffs for each of these rounds. That means there is a particular cutoff for the aptitude round, for the reasoning round, and for the vocabulary round, and also for the essay round as well. And coming to the behavioral round, I guess that is not an elimination round. There is not no sectional cutoff in the behavioral round. Again, I really don't remember very specifically, but I guess there was no elimination in the behavioral round. And last comes the I guess the coding round, where they provide you with 2 questions you're supposed to solve. So I can tell you about this, that if you when you're provided with coding questions, try to make sure that your solution gets submitted. That means at least one test case is passed. That should be your very first what you got very first target, that the solution should be submitted. That means at least one test case should be passed, and then you can go. So even if that is a brute force approach and a solution with a very high time complexity, and if you're not able to think of something else, go with that solution only. There you are likely to pass at least 2 to 3 test cases by the brute force solution. So make sure that you are at least submitting the solution than just skipping the question. That could be one suggestion for that. So yeah.
Yeah, there is this last question, I think. Can you tell your personal experience about the journey to Microsoft? What all preparations you did?
Yeah, very nice. So I'll tell you, how I prepared for that. I'll tell you, if I tell you my technique, I would suggest don't follow that, because I seriously began preparation only after the pandemic hit and we were restricted to our home. So there was no college basically, and I was only attending college classes online. So most of the time that I had to myself, the majority of the preparation I did then. That is not a very good suggestion. I suggest you start preparing much before your actual placements begin, because I guess the placements for our batch started in March 2020, and that is when the pandemic hit. And I could not actually clear any companies during that time, for March, April time. It is because I was not at all prepared. And that is the time when I actually started preparing. So my suggestion is that don't be so late in preparing. Begin your preparing much before you actually know that companies will start visiting the college. Now, how has been my preparation? I devoted some time to aptitude, and because I was not very good with aptitude, I was okay with vocabulary and communications. So that was not much of a headache for me, but I was not very good with aptitude. So I actually devoted, almost half an hour, 30 minutes to 35 minutes every day working on aptitude. I'll tell you, I followed this one website, it was India Bix, I guess, India Bix, and I used to solve questions there. So that pretty much helped me preparing for the aptitude round. For the essay round, see, there are, they're going to have a lot many constraints when you write the essay. So your essay should not just only be grammatically right and vocabulary on the like sound when it comes to vocabulary, but there are a lot many other technical aspects. So I guess you'll be provided training on that as well as a part of your soft skills training before placements. So nothing to worry about that, but just keep those points in mind. And I actually did some competitive programming also. I mean, of course, before the placements were there, I mean, or nearly started, the placements had nearly started, I began then. So I was not actually a very good competitive programmer, but I could solve questions from those platforms. So I was much of a learner from competitive programming rather than a competitor. So that is how I prepared for the written round. That because I guess the questions were around data structures, some trees, and I guess hashing. So that was pretty easy. I felt it was easy, so I could solve it. Now coming directly to the interview rounds. So interview rounds was pretty, like I would say, pretty elaborate. We had about 1 to 1.5 hours interview each. There were 3 interview rounds. So in the first round, they actually cover up all the core subjects. I'll tell you specifically for Microsoft. The pattern is the first in technical interview is strictly around your skills, what you have learned in college, and all the core topics. So they asked me about OOPS, they asked me about exception handling, they asked me about operating systems, they asked me vastly about SQL and data structures, algorithms. So it might happen that if it's online for you guys as well, so they might ask you to share your screen and type the code or write a SQL command. They might ask you that. But if by God's grace, if you guys go for an offline interview session for your batch, so you might be passed on with a paper and said that, yeah, please code this problem for me and tell me what is the time complexity. So they will be asking a lot around data structures, databases, operating system questions. I mean, that was with me. A couple of my other colleagues, they were asked elaborately around data structures. They were asked, actually code sorting algorithms and to show how, like, to diagrammatically show how there was, I suppose, some swap operation working between 2 and 3 stacks. So they were actually asked to diagrammatically show that how this operation is working and how they are kind of taking the data from one stack and pushing it to another stack and everything. So it might be very, very detailed for you. Or there were some friends of mine for whom the technical round was not that very elaborate. The first technical round was much around just asking and conversations, that how has been the entire experience in college, what all things they've learned. Or it may be very tech specific and they may ask you to kind of just tell the solution or write the solution. The second round will be mostly project oriented and skill oriented, like what projects you have done. The second round is very specifically around that. They will literally grill you on the projects, what you have done, what projects do you know, why did you actually get choose that problem statement, and why did you actually what all you learned from that, how did you work on that, what all skills you learned, what your skills were required, and what skills you learned specifically for the project. So they will literally grill you for the projects in the second round. And also if you have any deep knowledge about any particular technology, be it ML, AI, or security, or mm, cloud computing, so they might ask you around that as well. Like okay, so do you have any knowledge about cloud computing? What is your understanding of that? They might. And the third round was basically a leadership round, which was like most of a situation response round. They asked me technical questions, but that could be I mean, I can say that that was majorly a leadership round. They asked me more questions on situation response and HR based questions, which I previously discussed. So this was the basic scenario for the interviews during Microsoft. Yeah, I guess I'm clear about this.
Yes, yeah. Actually, near about all the questions are completed, and if there are
Hello.
so, yes, Akash, yeah, please continue.
Hello, Tushar. So, thank you for taking out your precious time for this meeting, and it was really a great session, and you made a great enlightening specific on the fields that are required for placements, and yeah, these were really very important for each and everyone who were present in the meeting. And yeah, I had one question regarding internship that you said that in first year or second year in the summer time or winter time we have to do. Currently, I am going through a situation in which I am going through high radius internship with a PPO offer. So actually, it is limited up to some students. Not all of them will get PPO. So how to deal with the placement and that internship? So could we just
See, as much as I remember, High Radius is, I guess, a day zero company basing upon the like the CTC that they're offering. So
yeah.
you won't be allowed for any other day zero company until and unless you get, a very high package, right, for day zero. So what you could do is actually you would be allowed for all the other dream companies. So be it Microsoft, be it PayPal, be it Amazon, you would be allowed to appear for that. So you can work for those companies and ensure that if you're working, if you're interning with High Radius, and if they are willing to offer a PPO, ensure that you grab the PPO, because like God forbid, but in the worst situation that you are unable to get a PPO from High Radius, then your only situation or your only options would be, the companies, the dream companies which would be coming. So that is a bit of a risk because these dream companies have a lot many things in demand, and not everyone can actually ace through these dream companies. There are many good students who have not been able to to uh, pass the rounds for the dream companies. So a lot, a luck favors are also there. So a good suggestion would be try to make sure that you grab a PPO from that from the company, or simultaneously you can also opt for off-campus placements. I guess I mean, if you are not able to get a PPO, it would be a tough situation then. Because meanwhile, the internship is so, I guess, High Radius offers 6 months of internship, I guess, or 12 months.
no, 12 months, 12 months.
12 months. So 12 months, that is again a very critical time, because if they tell you that they will not offer you a PPO after 12 months, so in that moment, your batch is totally over. The college would be preparing for placements for the next batch. So in that sense, you would only be left with off-campus placements. So which is pretty tough. Off-campus is very, very tough. So my suggestion is that try to get a PPO and also work for simultaneously work for dream companies. Yeah.
Yeah. So that was a good suggestion. So okay, so yeah, I would like to just tell in this situation for Microsoft currently, the college just selected 8 students. They selected students from their own. They haven't taken any test. They just selected 8 students and they invited them for interview. So how to get to the Microsoft in that situation?
See, I guess that thing was there because, for our batch, or no, for our previous batch, I'll tell you this, for our seniors, Microsoft, when Microsoft had come for internships, I guess that is for the internship, right?
No,
Internship.
actually that is for the job offer.
Okay, so for the FT offer, they have randomly selected 8 people.
Yeah, SD. Yeah.
SD. So Microsoft is
Sorry,
basically
FD,
FT, right? FT offer, full-time employment offer. So to be very clear, Microsoft doesn't visit our college for SD roles. It only goes to premier colleges such as IITs and NITs. That's it. So if college has selected a set of people to appear for the interviews, then I guess there is not much that could be done here, but it was very much different in our case. We actually got a mail and we were shortlisted on the basis of the initial criteria was CGPA. It was, I guess, about 8.7 was the cutoff to be eligible to appear for the written round for Microsoft. If it is so that the college has directly shortlisted 8-10 people for this, for the post, I mean, I don't think so there's that much could be done. But yeah, I mean, off-campus placements also, I guess that will begin from October, November for Microsoft. You can kind of look there. But I was not aware that, for FTE offers, the college did this. I was not aware of this.
Yeah, this is happening this time only.
Okay, so it was different for us. So yeah.
So I think we should wind up as placement cell
Yeah.
is asking for the meeting link.
Yeah,
Means,
sure. I mean,
latest placements.
yeah, I mean, I guess we are good to go. Also, if any of you guys have any other doubts, you can feel free to reach me on LinkedIn or anywhere. Can we get your LinkedIn account, please? Just search me, like search for my name, and I guess you'll find me there. Just browse for my name in LinkedIn and you'll find me there. No issues. So yeah, I guess we are done for the day. Rituraj and
Yes,
Ritvik. Yeah, Kshitij. So thank you.
That was a nice session.
Yeah.
Thank you for your time.
Thank you for calling me, and I'm really glad that I could actually provide you some insights on how my entire experience has been. I am like absolutely open for any suggestions that you feel that I could not clear, and you want to get in touch, you can connect with me on LinkedIn and post your questions there. I will try to answer to your questions.
Yes,
Yeah.
I would like Tushar to conclude the meeting. Thank you for your time.
Thank you, everyone.
Thank you so much, Bhaiya.
Thank you so much for calling me.
Yes, Bhaiya, thank you for your precious time. We are very much grateful for the time and effort you took to share your thoughts and experience with the Coding Wizard Club. I'm sure everyone present over here has enjoyed and benefited from your words. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you so much. Take care and good night. Bye-bye.
Bye, Bhaiya.